Here in South Florida, joined with Blaise Ngolia, our Chief Financial Officer in Florida, Division of Emergency Management Director Kevin Guthrie, ICE Field Office Director Garrett Ripa, and Executive Immigration Director for the state of Florida, Larry Keefe. As you've heard me say many times, 2024 election was a huge mandate from the American people to finally deal and put to bed the issue of illegal immigration once and for all. And part of that, of course, was the border security, but a lot of that was the reality that you had massive numbers of people that have come into this country illegally, and they needed to be repatriated to their home countries. And so we knew in Florida that this was something that was important to our state. We knew we had an opportunity to really make a difference, and so we decided to stand up. And that was nothing new for us. We were the first state to send people to help Texas when Biden opened the border back in 2021. I launched Operation Vigilant Sentry a couple years ago to help fill gaps in the maritime interdiction efforts of the Coast Guard, that when illegals try to come in via the sea to the shores of Florida. And just from the state's effort, in addition to everything the Coast Guard's done, just the state of Florida, we've ended up stopping and returning 18,000 illegal aliens, and we just had a bust the other day. So that's been really important to keep the state of Florida safe. We've also done things like ban sanctuary cities. We've ensured that there are no ID cards, of course no driver's license, but any ID cards to illegals. We've increased penalties on illegals who operate motor vehicles. And so we're proud to have been a leader in that even before the Trump administration took in. But then when that happened, we sprung into action on our state agencies doing these 287G agreements with Department of Homeland Security. That basically allows us at the state level to be working in tandem on immigration enforcement. And that wasn't true under the Biden administration. I'd have Highway Patrol, they'd pull over illegal aliens, and then they'd have to call ICE, and ICE didn't want to deal with them, so they basically had to release them back into the community. And so now they have the ability to bring those folks and process them for immigration enforcement, which I think is something that's really, really important. We, of course, called for a special session of the Florida legislature at the beginning of the year, saying, hey, this is our moment. This is what we all campaigned on. Let's get it done. And, we had some pushback on that initially. I think some of these guys, they didn't want to follow through on their campaign promises. They even sent me a bill that would have made things like Alligator Alcatraz and Operation Vigilant Sentry illegal in the state of Florida. Of course, I vetoed that. Blaise Ngolia was in the Senate there, and he was very much standing on the side of the voters that sent us here, and he opposed that sanctuary bill. We ended up getting good legislation passed that requires all state and local agencies in Florida to participate in immigration enforcement efforts. And so that really began in earnest months ago, and it has had a lot of success. But the one thing that we were running into was that DHS just did not have capacity to be able to hold and process these illegal aliens prior to deportation. We were using our sheriffs were using some of their local facilities. We would do what we could at the state level, but there was a huge need for additional capacity. And obviously they had a rough 4 years under Biden, really letting the agency wilt in ways that it was never intended to do. So we were asked, hey, if there's any way you can help with this, this is what you want to do. So the site here at the Dade Collier Airport in the heart of South Florida was a unique opportunity because while it was an existing footprint with a massive runway, it was something that was not necessarily full or being used all the time. And so we were able to, under Kevin Guthrie's leadership, within record time, create a facility that could support intaking, processing, and eventually deporting these illegal aliens. And that's important to deport from Florida, but obviously from the United States as well. So we have capacity now for a couple thousand. We can expand that as demand is there. and we're looking forward to being able to do that. I know that the administration has called on other states to follow suit and expand this type of capacity, and I would just reiterate that call. I think it's important. I think it'll make a difference. And so we're here today to say, this was never intended to be something where people are just held and we just kind of twiddle our thumbs. The whole purpose is to make this be a place that can facilitate increased frequency and numbers of deportations of illegal aliens. And that is the goal. And one of the reasons why this was a sensible spot is because you have this runway that's right here. You don't have to drive them an hour to an airport. You go a couple thousand feet and they can be on a plane and out of here. So I'm pleased to report that those flights out of Alligator Alcatraz by DHS have begun. The cadence is increasing. We've already had a number of flights in the last few days. We've had hundreds of illegals have been removed from here, and the federal government has a process of how they eventually do, and they've done it different ways on some of these different flights. But the reality is this provides an ability to enhance the mission to increase the number and frequency of deportations. And so what's been done here has really been remarkable. There's full ground-to-air communications from the airfield. There's air tracking radar capabilities on site, securing all access ports to the taxiway and runway on aircraft arrival. That happens. You got 5,000 gallons of jet fuel on site. You got runway lighting. You got everything you need to be able to do that. This airport is able to accept commercial-sized aircraft and conduct both day and nighttime operations. And so that's what it's all about, to be able to help process and remove folks that are legally in the state of Florida and in the United States of America. So we look forward to this cadence increasing. One of the things when the president came and visited that he approved was deputizing state officers, including National Guard judge advocates, to be immigration judges. And the vision is to just have them on site. You can move forward with the processing very quickly and increase the numbers. And the flow would be, there'd be a high turnover rate here because you'd be constantly doing that. We're working very closely with the Department of Justice. We have not yet had any approval for anybody to be able to come down here and do that, but we do anticipate that happening very soon. And when that happens, you're going to have an availability of a lot of folks to be able to be ripe, to be able to be removed and ultimately sent back to their home countries. I've also pointed out we've been supportive of the efforts that if somebody is earmarked to come here and they would choose to simply voluntarily deport. Now, they're not just going to take your word for it. They're going to take you, chaperone you, make sure that you're on that aircraft and that you're landed in your home country. But there is resources available to do that. And I think that makes sense from a taxpayer perspective because it's cheaper to do it that way. It's also more efficient. So anybody that wants to take up on the offer can do it. We've had some people take up on the offer, and it's not just limited to Alligator Alcatraz. That's something that in any of these instances with immigration enforcement, that's a way to short circuit and ultimately get where we're trying to go anyways. So that is something that's a live possibility, and I hope more and more people avail themselves of that opportunity. I want to